This is Diana Block with Globe University, and welcome to Organizational Behavior. This is the summer 2014 quarter, and I'm going to be your online instructor for the next 11 weeks. And so this week I just want to introduce you to the course and give you some information about how the class will be conducted. So just to get it out of the way, I want to go ahead and draw your attention to the late policy. Basically, you have a 3-day grace period after each assignment is due to turn that assignment in. After 3 days of lateness or after Wednesday at midnight, no late work is accepted. So as with all your classes, all work is due on Sunday by midnight. If you are not able to submit it by Sunday at midnight, you do have a 3-day grace period to submit it for half credit. So that is the late policy. Hopefully we won't have to use that. Plan well and try to get things done early in the week so unexpected situations on the weekend don't cause you to be late. But if a situation does occur where you have to be late with your work, you will know how that's going to be handled. So let's go ahead and look at the structure of the class. Every week you're going to have discussion, and so with the discussion you're required to make a main post that addresses all portions of the discussion questions, giving your own answer, your own response to all sections of the discussion question. And then you're going to give at least 2 meaningful responses to your classmates. So by a meaningful response, I mean it has to be more than just I agree or I disagree or good post. It needs to actually add some information to the conversation, additional perspectives, questions, just some kind of additional information that we can use to look deeper into the issue that we're discussing. So every week you'll have discussion. You're also going to have some sort of written paper every week. For example, Unit 1, you have 2 articles to read. They're in your textbook. And the first one is on page 21. And the second one is on page 52 to 53. So after you have read Chapter 1, at the end of Chapter 1 is where you're going to find this article on Netflix. So let's go to the end of the chapter and look at that question, or that article rather. Let's go to page. So here we are on page 21, and you're going to find this article. Apply what you've learned, world-class company Netflix. This is the article for the first part of the assignment for week 1. So what you're going to do is read this entire article about Netflix. I believe it continues on to the next page, or just the bottom of the page. And so at the end of that article about Netflix, you will find these questions. So your assignment is, based on what you've read in the chapter and what you've read in the article, you're going to put that information together and find out what characteristics described in this article relate to concepts in the chapter that you read. So what you're going to do, and this is with every assignment, you're going to take the company or organization that you've read about in the article, and you're going to determine which concepts, which terminology from the chapter apply to that. So you're going to answer about modern characteristics of a modern organization that's present at Netflix, some advantages or disadvantages of working there, and whether you think that that is a sustainable firm. Now I'm flipping over to the very end to the chapter summary and key terms. It's on page 25 of this particular chapter 1. So the chapter summary and key terms highlights for you and identifies the concepts of organizational behavior that were covered in this chapter. So when you're answering the questions about Netflix, some students have a habit of answering the questions by repeating the information that's in the article. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for you to take the information that's in the article and find concepts in the chapter that apply to that. So when you answer the questions, I'm actually looking for you to use some of these chapter summary and key terms and determine which ones apply to Netflix. So basically, based on the article that you read about Netflix, what's their systems theory? Do they have an open system? permeable boundaries? Do they have a closed system with impermeable boundaries? What's their organizational theory? What are some of the characteristics of a modern employer that are given in the chapter that relate to Netflix? So you're going to take the information related to Netflix that you read and see which of these chapter summary key terms apply to it. So they are in the chapter you will have read about contingent jobs, offshoring, globalization, employability skills. That's one that you may use to identify Netflix. Protected classes. So all of these chapter summary and key terms, boundaryless organizations, employee empowerment, re-engineering, and this whole list goes on. These are all the different concepts that were discussed in chapter 1. So when you read chapter 1, you should see all of these concepts explained. So when you get to the homework and read that article about Netflix, your job is to tell me which of these concepts from the chapter relate to what you read about Netflix. Not to repeat back what was in the article. I want you to take the article and find things in the chapter to answer those questions. Okay, let's go back to the class. The second part of the homework for week 1 is on pages 52 and 53. So this is at the end of chapter 2. It's where this is. So if we go to, I believe it said page 56-ish, you'll have the assignment in front of you. I'm having to flip back and forth. Okay, it's actually on page 52 and 53. So here's the second part of the assignment. It is at the end of chapter 2. And so you're going to read this article about Richard Branson, a legend in business. You're going to read about him, everything that the article says about him. And then at the end of the article, here's questions. Describe Richard Branson's personality using the Big 5 profile and other personality tests. Now, in chapter 2, when you read it, or when you do read it, they are going to explain the Big 5 personality profile and the 5 different parts to it and what it means. And they're going to describe other personality tests and give examples of other personality tests. So that's what you're going to use to describe Mr. Branson's personality. Not that you're repeating back information that's in the article, but you're going to explain how the information in the article relates to the Big 5 personality profile and other personality tests. And then all of the questions here: why is he successful in business? Would he be successful in other industries? You're going to use the information in the chapter to answer those questions. Use concepts and terminology from the chapter to answer those questions based on what you read in the article and what you read in the chapter. So at the end of chapter 2, you see again you've got chapter summary and key terms. So this will help you after you've read it and read the article to remind you of some of those key terms that we did read about in chapter 2. And you can determine which of these applies to the article about Mr. Branson and explain how they apply and why they apply to him. So there's a whole list of the key terms. So your answers to the article questions should have these key terms in them, at least some of these key terms. And the reason I'm going through this in such detail is because this is how all of your assignments are going to be set up in this class. Let me get back there. Every week you're going to be assigned reading, and at the end of the reading you're going to have articles to read. And your job each week is to take the information given in the article and apply it to the concepts and terminology that you read about in that chapter, and explain how the concepts in that chapter relate to the real life situation that you're reading about, the real life company that you're reading about. Later on in the class, you're going to do some papers. The course paper instructions are here. Those papers are much later in the course, but you might still want to this week, if you have time, go ahead and read the instructions. When you get to the papers, you're going to do the same type of thing you're doing with the assignments. You're going to just collaborate with multiple weeks worth of chapter key terms and summaries. And you're going to put all of those weeks of learning into analyzing a movie and later into analyzing an organization. So on the assignments, you're going to do a week at a time, a chapter at a time, applying the key terms to real situations. Then later on, when you do the papers, your papers are going to use multiple weeks worth of terms, concepts, uh, to describe a movie and an organization. So even later when you do those papers, you're going to still use those chapter summaries and key terms. The whole purpose of all of the assignments is to take the terminology and the concepts that we're learning in the class and apply them to real life organizations. So I really wanted to stress how the assignments should be done, that you should be using the terminology from the reading in your chapters to describe these organizations and answer the questions. Okay? You do have some additional information here to help you. In week 1, you've got a Big 5 personality test link and some information about APA formatting and some practice quizzes, because we are going to have tests later on in the class. So for week 1, the things that are due this week is the discussion and an assignment. And basically, that's how it's going to be every week. You're going to have a discussion and a written assignment, and then some weeks you will also have a quiz. And I'll let you know a week in advance when those are coming up so you can prepare and study for that. So that is basically how the class is going to work. My information, my phone number and email is in the instructor area, as well as my office hours are posted there. You can always send me an email if you have additional questions. I'll always respond the same day unless it's late, and then it'll be the next day. It'll always be within 24 hours that I'll respond to your emails. So I look forward to getting to know you in the discussion area, and I wish you a good week. Thanks.